If you thought Animal Crossing was just a chill game without any enemies or villains, you thought wrong. For a couple of decades now, fans have basically decided that there is in fact a villain. His name is Tom Nook. Dun dun dun! Alright, so practically everyone and their sister sees Nook as the honorary villain of the Animal Crossing franchise. But what if I told you this isn't so, and that the accusations are blown way out of proportion? You'd call me crazy, and fair enough based on what is said about him. In fact, a really good Animal Crossing creator, Filmora, who also just recently had a baby, has made a couple of videos where she asked for people's hot takes about Animal Crossing. Her last video featured one from yours truly. Any guesses what it was? If it wasn't obvious from the thumbnail, title, and my introduction thus far, it was that Tom Nook isn't as bad as we make him out to be. Now, I really only brought up the whole loan and debt thing, which I'll of course be addressing soon, but dang, she ripped my comment to shreds in a nice way. And rightly so, as I only threw out one little thing, didn't clarify it, and she had quite a few super solid arguments for why Tom kinda stinks. But after pondering the pushback a bit more, I think I've got a decent rebuttal. So, here are reasons why Tom Nook is actually not a villain. But I could still understand why you're not a fan of him. First, allow me to clarify, I'm not implying that this old Tanuki is perfect and wonderful in every way. No, just trying to put to rest some of the pushback against him and show he's more reasonable than we give him credit for. Anyway, now we can begin. The first and probably most brought up point is the crippling debt he supposedly puts us in. Okay, number one, we chose to take on this adventure in each installment. No one forced us to. Like how no one forced me to take out loans for college. I chose to, wasn't the smartest, but here we are. 2. He's running a business. He has to make a profit. I can understand feeling like he acts the part of a sleazy salesman, but that's more of a personality trait and not an inherent flaw based on what he actually does, like taking care of his nephews. We'll come back to them. 3. He doesn't even require interest on these loans that some of us may never pay him back for. Literally, there are zero repercussions for not paying off your loan. Yeah, you can't upgrade further, but that's a logical consequence, y'all. In terms of him being greedy and cheap, many cite the fact that if you buy something from him and try to sell it back, the amount goes way down. Honestly, I don't have a great comeback for this. It is pretty dumb. But maybe one day the creators will implement a receipt system, whereby we can return something if we didn't like it. So, you got me there. And finally, concerning this point, he hardly charges us anything. Now hold up, I hear you saying. Just in Animal Crossing New Horizons alone, we are expected to pay almost 5.7 million bells for our house and upgrades. And I don't think that includes the storage expansions. Yes, he does ask that of us. But who said bells were equivalent to the US dollar? Or for that matter, the Canadian dollar or the euro? Think about it. This was something I actually pondered way back in elementary school when I was playing Animal Crossing on the GameCube. I mean, how are dingy shirts sometimes 300 bells? That's insane! And it's not just Nook, but also the Able sisters, Leaf, Kix, everyone. Gracie Grace is a different story, she's meant to be bougie. Yet I hear not a single person call them greedy. Did it ever occur to you that the Animal Crossing bell wasn't meant to be a one-to-one equivalent of our currency? Where are the creators of Animal Crossing from? Japan. Perhaps we ought to look to the Japanese yen as a better example of how the currency of bells ought to be interpreted, shall we? So, as of now, 5.7 million yen, or bells, is about 36,730 US dollars, 53,403 Canadian dollars, or 35,446 euro. Y'all, that is dirt cheap. That's barely even a down payment on a house today. So at the very least, you can't say he charges too much for the house. Finally, even if Nook is well off, what's wrong with that? Seems like he earned it, is a hard worker, and truly cares about the community. Salesman personality aside, he's ambitious. Just because someone has money doesn't mean they're horrible automatically. But I'm gonna leave it there, because if I delve any further, it's gonna feel like we're getting into politics and other, for some reason, controversial things. And that just takes all the fun out of an Animal Crossing video, or any video for that matter, unless that's what your channel is about, which mine is not, so moving on. The next accusation is arguably the worst one in terms of simply what it is and trying to push back on it. Child labor. Yes, I'm talking about his nephews Timmy and Tommy. Many bring up the point that Tom seemingly works them way too hard and at too young an age. This is honestly a super fair accusation, and at a glance, seems insurmountable, but I came with receipts. Sort of. Really, it's just in-game logic in my interpretation. Nook says, I believe in the first game, that he took his nephews in and raised them. Raised them. Past tense. This implies that they must be older, teenagers in fact, in that game. They also drink coffee in New Horizons, for what that's worth. Since we don't believe these characters age, because based on my inferences, that puts them at roughly 33 plus, which doesn't seem right. 14 to 17-ish is actually a very normal age to work a real job, though I think they may be older. Also, ever heard of a family business? Yeah, it's incredibly common to work a lot of hours at a place your family owns. Just because you don't like that doesn't mean it's automatically wrong. It's a culture thing too. My mom owned a flower shop when I was little till I was in my teens. While sometimes I got to pick out cute things for helping, it was still normal that my brothers and I were expected to help and work there. Not to mention, we learned a ton through those experiences. She did actually pay my brothers, which is more than most can say. I get that open to close is a lot, but I think it's safe to assume that these boys must be older than we think and not in school. College isn't everything, y'all. Trade schools are a much better option in this day and age. I know I said I brought receipts, and these are assumptions, but they're logical ones. It's ridiculous to think otherwise. Just because they look little doesn't mean they are. I'm in my late 20s and still get asked when I'm graduating high school. Over 10 years ago, lady. I'm not even a young adult anymore, just an adult. With a baby. Next accusation. Isabel and other workers. We've all noticed how Isabel works, 24/7. That's insane. And we thought open to close for his nephews was bad, though I ought to also point out that with the Able sisters, they work open to close. I still say the nephews are adults and that's how family businesses run, whatever. But all day and night, every day, that is too far. At least, however, Nook works those same hours. He doesn't put out any expectations that he himself is not willing to meet as well. Still a bit much, but like the taking out a loan thing, she isn't forced to. I don't think. Maybe. Now people are gonna say I'm victim blaming. It's a video game. Although, maybe, just maybe they take long breaks whenever we're not playing. I mean, Isabel mentions her walk to work at times, so perhaps that's it. 'Tis a mystery. I've spent all this time defending him against some accusations that I forgot to promote the good of him too. We've already addressed it a bit, but he did raise his nephews, which is awesome. They seem to have good heads on their shoulders, are smart, work hard, and are successful. It would also seem that he really puts a lot of trust and faith in us. I mean, seriously, we come to his town, or island, depending on the game, without any money, no background check, no credit history to speak of, no job, no references, and he takes a chance on us, gives us a loan, which again I will remind you is interest-free, no repercussions for not paying him back, and even gives us super easy jobs. I don't recall too much about New Leaf, but I suppose he does believe we're just the new mayor. Still, he doesn't double check, which I guess actually is a bit naive. But in New Horizons, he's trusting we make good on our word because he's invested in making this amazing getaway island from the ground up. We do a ton of work, that's true, but it's not like he does nothing. He handles a pretty large amount of the load and still gives us a ton of free reign. We can put anything anywhere and design it any way we want. He just does the behind the scenes work. And finally, he seems to genuinely care about the growth of the community. I suppose this one could be left to your personal interpretation, meaning most interpret his excitement as being for the money that's coming in. But I don't know. I just don't see it that way. Money is a necessity to making things work, and we've established he doesn't actually charge that much, but he gets so excited to see your progress and the progress of the community. He's like a proud father who's also a bit quirky at times. But that's just how I see it. So, is Nook a villain? Well, he can be greedy when it comes to returns, but actually hardly charges us anything when it comes to our house, and with no repercussions. He has arguably too high of expectations for those who work for him, but at least he meets those same standards. He definitely does sometimes come across as a cold and sleazy salesperson, but villain? Nah, that's reading too much into the game. Honestly, that might be the biggest issue here. I mean, I'm addressing people freaking out about insurmountable loans, overworked employees, child labor, and risking being called a victim blamer. It's a game! Pure logic and reason tells you something else is going on here. It's a cozy game. However, to that end, because it is just a game, you're allowed to read into it whatever you want. If making Nook a villain and coming up with this backstory that his nephews are actually super young and forced into child labor, and people like Isabel are tricked into overworking themselves to death, and that Nook is covering up his malicious greed with no interest loans and supposedly working the same hours, all of that makes the game 10 times more interesting for you? Respect the creativity, albeit quite dark. My point is that while these accusations seem valid on the surface, a closer look tells you it's not what it seems. But hey, play and interpret the game how you like. Makes no difference to me. With that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to The Geekdom. I make other kinds of videos and stream twice a week. As hinted at the beginning of the video, I had a baby last fall, so getting back into a routine with YouTube has been kind of hit or miss, but I think I'm on a hit streak. Yay! And thank you oodles to the people who pledge their financial support each month or through singular donations on Streamlabs, especially as I continue to develop a schedule. All of my patrons and channel members are rock stars. Special thanks to my geek masters, Joking Batman, Geek Mom, Lorulian Sheep, McToppler, and Soeren. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.